keep it going. How about those Knicks giving LA a run for their money? Anthony Davis, Julius Randle, teammates in New Orleans didn't make anything easy for one another. The Lakers pulling off a 2-point win in OT, but that didn't come without a cost. Anthony Davis suffering a worrisome groin injury without LeBron on the court. AD, how you feeling?
I'm hurt. Not more so my body, just my groin got tight. That was really it. Not sure where it came from, but the groin got a little tight. And there's no way I was coming out the game. I mean, big game for us. A team who's playing red hot. The situation that we're in, trying to battle for 6.
All right, here we go. LeBron expected to be back tonight. AD up in the air. The Lakers competing for that 6th spot tonight against Houston, looking to avoid the play-in. According to BPI, the Lakers have a 16% chance to make the NBA Finals, but first clinch a playoff berth. Here's a look at their play-in tournament breakdown. Portland and Dallas hold tiebreakers over the defending champs. So how important is it for the Lakers to avoid the play-in tourney altogether? I bring Big Perk into the conversation. Kendrick, good to see you, sir. As always, I will get to you in a second, but I'm going to start with you, Chris. What do you think? How important is it for them to avoid that play-in?
Molly, I think it's huge for the Lakers to be able to avoid the play-in because you're talking about the difference between getting this team into a long series where you have the opportunity for the law of averages to play out with your talent. And when you start talking about the top-end talent on the Lakers roster, I mean, outside of the Nets, you're probably talking about the most talented top-end in the National Basketball Association. So to me, it's paramount to have the opportunity to avoid the play-in because you get the opportunity to get those guys the rest that they would have not having to play in the play-in and then having a chance to get into a long series. So to me, that makes the most sense. Now, I understand what happened to AD last night. Maybe he can't go tonight. We'll see what happens if they rest him and then what happens on Saturday against the Indiana Pacers. But I look at this as an opportunity for the Lakers. With LeBron James, they shouldn't have that much trouble with the Rockets. You get an opportunity to get AD 3 or 4 days of rest and then come back and see what he can do those last 2 regular season games. But the most important thing is to avoid those one-and-done scenarios where anything can happen. It's almost like an NCAA field in terms of being sudden death and being bounced. So you try to avoid that at all costs and then have the opportunity to get into an actual playoff series. So to me, Molly, It would be huge if the Lakers had the potential to avoid it. And if you look at the Portland Trail Blazers schedule, it's not outside of the realm of possibility for that team to lose 2 or 3 and the Lakers to win out.
I think the Lakers, health and wealth, Kendrick.
Bless you.
I think the Lakers should play without regard to the play-in tournament. That shouldn't even be a factor. The only factor should be health, number one, and then if you're healthy, chemistry and getting some rhythm going. But not a factor for the play-in. Chris, I would agree with you if it was tournament style 1 and done. But if you're 7-8, it's 2 and done. And do not tell me the Lakers, with LeBron James and AD on the court, are not only going to lose to the Blazers or Warriors. That's possible. Steph or Dame get hot. What are you going to do one game? I get that sphere, right? But then they're going to turn around and lose again to either the Grizzlies or the Spurs. That ain't going to happen. And it may even be better to go through that if you can rest LeBron and AD as much as they need now. Because in that play, it's not playoff atmosphere, it's a playoff game. It's a postseason game. The game is called play-in, but season's over, you're playing basketball. It's postseason. You play 1 or 2 postseason games, and you got guys healthy, and now you head into a series with the Jazz or the Suns. Oh, I like your chances. What are they going to do with AD? Either one of those teams, right? But if you go in, you're playing your guys. You really care about seeding. You want to avoid the play-in, and it works. But you heard AD. He's hurting right now. Groin got tight. You see what they did with LeBron. Let's play him. Let's give him that extra day rest. Now you're playing those guys, and maybe they're not 100%, and you're heading in cold. You don't have any playoff atmosphere to start, right? To a Clippers series round 1, Lakers would be underdogs. Lakers would be lucky to get out of the first round. What they should do is get LeBron and AD as healthy as possible and completely ignore whether or not they play in the play-in.
Well, Max, I agree with you on certain points, and I agree that the Lakers shouldn't be worried about the play-in tournament. Matter of fact, I think the Lakers should embrace the play-in tournament. To your point, Max, I think the Lakers should try to lock in and get the 7th seed. Whether that's, how they got to do it, but they should strategize and try to make sure that they get the 7th seed to possibly face the Phoenix Suns, who I think they could really beat in a 7-game series. Like you said, they have no answer for Anthony Davis. The Suns has been horrible over the last week and a half. When you're supposed to be playing some of the best basketball of the season right now, you're supposed to be peaking going into the playoffs. Now, I will say this, though. Health-wise, I don't want to hear that, for the simple fact that LeBron James and Anthony Davis, especially LeBron James, he needs to get as much repetition as he possibly can. He's been sidelined. He hasn't been able to be in full contact practices. So he needs to have those in-game situations so that he could get his rhythm back. He could get his chemistry of playing with a guy like Andre Drummond, who he hasn't played a lot of minutes with. And he could get that workload for us with his legs, get adjusted to that workload. So I like the play-in for the Lakers. I think it's going to benefit them because it's going to help their chemistry. It's going to help their conditioning. It's going to help everything about it. Frank Vogel rotations and everything. So I actually, if I'm the Lakers, I'm embracing that 7th seed. I'm embracing it with open arms. But with that being said, I'm not sitting guys out because I still need my superstars to make sure that they get those quality reps.
That's why they're in a tough spot, guys. That's why the Lakers are in a tough spot. They need the rhythm. They need the chemistry. The question was, how's, especially Drummond and AD, right? How are those rotations going to work? How they're going to play together? And it's LeBron and don't forget Schroeder, who are really running the offense. You have a lot of pieces to integrate, and your most important pieces are hurt right now. But to me, Chris, I agree with Perk. The ideal scenario for me for the Lakers is a 7th seed. DeAndre Ayton's a couple years away from being able to do anything at all with AD if he'd be able to anyway. And right now, to get that rhythm going and then take a softer touch to me than the Clippers is what the Lakers need, especially, Chris, if you're going to gun for the 6th seed. That means you got to play these dudes now. You want a worn down or an injured AD. A groin is something that only rest is going to really address. Mm-hmm. You want an injured or compromised AD or LeBron in the first round against the Clippers?
Well, here's what I would say to you, Mac. I think the best part of your argument is the scenario in which the Lakers find themselves on the other side of the bracket with the Clippers. But in my eyes, and I'm a Lakers fan, the only thing that can derail the Lakers' title contention chances is if they're not healthy. And more rest is better for LeBron and AD. Like, I get understanding the rotations and wanting to have those guys in the rhythm. There's something to be said for that. But I think that ship has sailed. We're talking about 3 more games in the regular season, and I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility for the Lake Show to run the table. You got the Houston Rockets, then this weekend you got Indiana, and I believe it's the Pelicans after that in a back-to-back. So I just feel like...
Hold on, wait, you're saying that if by avoiding the play-in, those are the extra games that you're trying to avoid?
Well, here's what I'm saying, Max. It's pick when you want to get your rest. Do you want to get your rest next week, or do you want AD and LeBron to get their rest this week? And to me, I would rather have that next week, getting ready for a long series if that's possible. If the Portland Trailblazers stumble down the stretch, which is entirely possible, and they leave that door cracked open for the Lakers, they would do themselves a disservice if they didn't try to walk through it.
Yeah, but Kenny, you know, like I know, right? And it's the same in all sports, right? You get hurt in football, the only way that you could get your rhythm back is by actually going out there on the field and playing the game of football. And sometimes it may take you 2 games. Sometimes it takes you 5 games. Hell, it may take you 10 games. All I'm saying is that for LeBron James, he's been out almost, 22, 23 games now, the longest of his career, really. And he needs to get his rhythm back. He needs to get his legs up under him. We already know you can do all the Chuck Norris home workout things that you want to do. But until you get out there in those trenches, till you get out there and get that physical contact, that up and down game pace, you're not going to be where you want to be. Now, we'll say this. One last thing, Max. The reason that I'm not afraid, I don't think the Lakers should be afraid of the Clippers. And I actually picked the Clippers as my favorite, but I'm kind of backtracking on that, Molly, because they've been playing horrible basketball. Kawhi is not healthy. True. PG is looking horrible. And the Lakers, right? The Lakers put on a defensive clinic last night. Yep. They are the best defensive team in the league. They hang their hats on the defensive side of things. So with that being said, the Western Conference is looking a little shaky at the top right now. So if I'm the Lakers, I'm not fearing no one.
Kirk, don't be worried about LeBron. I can't believe we're worried about LeBron and his legs and all that. It's LeBron James. He's going to be fine as long as he's healthy. He doesn't need to worry about games for rhythm and Molly, chemistry and all that.
No, but in this case, he does, because there are a lot of moving pieces here, including Schroeder, who's the other primary ball handler, and AD, who LeBron is going to. LeBron used AD like a weapon last year to win the championship. If AD's compromised and LeBron doesn't have that weapon, what are they going to do?
Yeah,
I
I'll
also
my money on LeBron
James. Max.
All right. Hey, Big Perk, I always notice a barbershop visit. I like the all black. It looks clean. First Take has plenty more to come from Perk, including why he thinks the rest of the West is sleeping.